My resignation will take effect as soon as the New South Wales Liberal Party can elect a new parliamentary leader.
If you're a guy and you want to wear the Playboy bunny costume, by all means, pimpin', make it happen. Do it as much as you want, how often you want, wherever you want. That doesn't make sense to me why Playboy would have a dude in the bunny costume on their cover.
Journalist and TV presenter Jessica Rowe bows to social media critics, deletes podcast with Senator Pauline Hanson.
Welcome once again to the New Flesh Podcast, the podcast you deserve. My name is Jonathan Astro, and with me is my partner in crime, Ricky Allpike.
What's up?
All right, Ricky, we've got some big stuff to talk about today, but we're not afraid, are we?
No, we're not afraid of the big juicy issues.
We're not, and that's why you're here to listen to us, to wade into these waters. First up, I think we're going to talk about some corruption in our two major states. We've got the newsflash a bit later. We'll also talk about Playboy's latest move. That sounds sexy, doesn't it? We'll finish up with...
Don't get too excited.
No, they should. They should get excited about how terrible it is. And then later on, we have Jessica Rowe. I've got a headline for that. I should do this for all things. So does this hook you? Leftist girls gone wild. Hot left on left action.
Wow.
What do you think?
That's great.
It's good. So that doesn't get you listening. I don't know what will. Anyway. Let's start with Icac.
Yes. So, what the fuck happened to the Premier of New South Wales? Okay.
So, if anyone's listening, our Premier in New South Wales got us through COVID, and then like a week before we're about to open, which is next week, she just resigned, and a bunch of her cabinet resigned too.
That's right. Yeah. So this happened last week. She was being investigated by Icac, which is the Independent Commission Against Corruption. And Icac's roles are, and this is from their website, to investigate and expose corrupt conduct in the New South Wales public sector, to actively prevent corruption through advice and assistance, and educate the New South Wales community and public sector about corruption and its effects. Icac's jurisdiction does not extend to officers of the New South Wales Police Force or the New South Wales Crime Commission. Now, Gladys resigned after it was made public that there was an Icac probe into her relationship with former MP Daryl Mcguire. Now, reading from a prepared statement, she said that she regretted leaving while the state was still in the grip of the pandemic, but the announcement by Icac had left her with no alternative. She also denied being involved in any corrupt conduct during her time in Parliament. So throughout this COVID fast here in the state of Victoria, I'd often hear what was happening in New South Wales and be quite envious of how the government was handling things. Out of all the Australian states, New South Wales seemed to be a lot more measured in their approach to COVID restrictions. And that's why I was a little saddened to hear that the Premier of New South Wales was resigning. So I was confused by the whole situation, and I'm sure there are many of our Australian listeners who are also wondering what the deal is here. So I've done some research. I'm doing the reading, so you don't have to. So let's start with Daryl Mcguire. So Gladys has been in what some might describe as a secretive relationship with a guy called Daryl Mcguire for 5 years, beginning in 2015. Daryl Mcguire is a former Liberal politician and was the local member for Wagga Wagga in southern New South Wales for nearly 20 years before he resigned in 2018. Now, he resigned after his own Icac investigation was made public. And have a listen to his rap sheet here. He acted as a middleman and sought payment over a property deal. He took multiple trips to China and countries in the South Pacific region, often taking his staff and friends from Wagga Wagga with him, with some expenses paid for with the public purse. The trips were said to have involved connecting a Chinese business group with governments, on occasion signing memorandums of understanding for which Mr. Mcguire was paid a cash fee for organising. Mcguire also played a key role in convincing several Riverina businessmen to take part in a cash for visa scheme where they would hire Chinese citizens that never turned up for work. The Chinese citizens' families would pay a large sum of money to migration agent Maggie Wang, who would arrange a visa and pay off Mr. Mcguire and the businessman for taking part. Even though Mcguire resigned in 2018, he still maintained a relationship with the New South Wales Premier for almost 2 years. Now, this is why Gladys is in hot water. So the Icac investigation is looking into grants awarded or promised to the Australian Clay Target Association in Wagga Wagga and to the Riverina Conservatorium of Music, also in Wagga Wagga, at a time when Mr. Mcguire was the local member. So I want to make clear that the Premier has not been found to have engaged in any corruption. Her government awarded financial grants to organisations in Mcguire's electorate. And this is an active investigation that so far has provided no evidence of any wrongdoing. So this could all be dodgy as fuck, or it could be an innocent coincidence. We don't know at this stage. But it seems that Icac love to take scalps any way they can. Icac has a history of making inquiries public that end up resulting in high-profile politicians and public figures resigning prematurely. Many politicians have resigned only to be found not guilty of any corrupt conduct, and shaming seems to be incorporated as both a deterrent and a form of punishment. Now, here's a small list of people who have been affected by investigations but not found guilty. Former Emergency Services Commissioner Murray Keir, Deputy Senior Crown Prosecutor of New South Wales Margaret Keenan, former New South Wales Police Commissioner Michael Gallagher, former Liberal MP Mara Fakara, former Liberal candidate Mark Bassett. And some of these people have had to go to Australia's High Court to clear their names. This is the highest court in the land. And the way Icac works allows mud to stick even if allegations are unproven. Now, my hero, Alan Jones, you know I love Alan Jones, Astro. In a recent Sky News segment, he's highlighted that the Icac machinery needs to be reformed. There needs to be an exoneration protocol for innocent victims of Icac. Now, there's been several papers written and suggestions made to the New South Wales Parliament for exoneration measures to be included in the Icac machine dating back to 2018, but unfortunately Gladys did not push for any such measure. So now she's been done in. She's lost her job, her income, her vocation, and her reputation based on a statement that she's being investigated. Now, I agree with Alan Jones here that these investigations should be done behind closed doors and should not be made public. There is no protection of innocence in this process. So there you go. That's the situation in a nutshell. That's the deal with Gladys. Now you know why she's resigned. And interestingly, in the last few days, we're hearing news reports that Daniel Andrews here in Victoria is being investigated by Icac, which is a similar anti-corruption watchdog based in Victoria. And he's being investigated for dodgy dealings with a firefighting union. So watch this space. He might also be resigning, hopefully, as soon as possible.
Well, this whole thing is, they do need to fix that entire situation, because it seems like this commission was probably set up with noble intentions, because there is a bit of corruption about town, particularly in New South Wales.
Yeah, well, I think these sorts of organisations definitely are good and need to exist, but I don't understand why they make all this stuff public before they even have any evidence, you know.
That's right. The problem is that, I mean, it would be like me saying I'm the small dick detective, and then I'd come to your house and with a loud hailer outside, and I'd say, everybody, it's just the small dick detective. I'm here on official business, just an investigation. Don't read too much into it. Anyway, here's my measuring stuff. I only bought the small stuff. I won't need the big stuff. I'm going in now, and I knock on your door and everyone's standing around watching, and yes. I go in and then I come out and then they'll look and I go, tapes to be released later, you know.
Yeah, nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here. And I mean that. I mean that, nothing big to see here. Anyway, I'm just a small dick detective.
Let me repeat again. There's nothing big to see
There's
here.
nothing big to see here. So it just doesn't seem very fair, I mean,
No.
It is difficult because, often these people have they've done really well in business and in their lives, and so you can't, they're humans, and so you want to just say, let's give everyone a fair go. But it does make it tough because they're, like that Daryl Mcguire, he sounds dodgy as all
Well,
get
he
out.
sounds dodgy as fuck, yeah. But see the difference in the rap sheet. Like his rap sheet is really, really dodgy. And then you look at why Gladys has resigned, and it's over. I mean, even what they're talking about, this grant system. I mean, maybe I know she's the premier, but maybe she had absolutely nothing to do with the awarding of those grants. Maybe they got the grants just on merit alone. We don't know, but why does that have to be made public? But it's also interesting because the way your view on it and depends on your view of that politician too. So I was a little bit saddened to hear Gladys Berejiklian resign because of this, but then when I hear Dan Andrews is under investigation, I'm like, fuck yeah, let's bring this guy down, whereas I sort of have to pull myself back a little bit and say, okay, well, if I want the process to be fair, like it has to be fair even for a scumbag like Andrews.
That's right. It's just like cancellation. You need to look into it and say, wait a minute, it's not really fair on anybody.
Yep.
Let alone, I can't enjoy it too much when people I don't like get sort of, blowing themselves up.
That's right. Yeah. But the other issue here is this exoneration thing as well. Like, when Icac does make public that they're investigating someone, and then when it turns into nothing, when they have no evidence and nothing happens, then there should be some sort of public acknowledgement that this person is innocent, that they've done nothing wrong. And I think it's interesting because we live in an era where exoneration, forgiveness and redemption no longer exists, and you see this in social media. Once the mud has been thrown, it sticks forever, like someone calls you transphobe, then you're always known as a transphobe. Someone calls you a racist, then, you may as well cut some holes in your pillowcases and join the KKK, because you're always known as, oh, that guy, he's that racist, right?
Well, with that one, and it's so true, I mean, it is what it is, but like there's a footballer who in AFL in Adelaide who said something terrible in a football match, and, did the apology circuit after that. But he now, forevermore, has before his name the word disgraced.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, it's an extreme example, obviously, but maybe that's the sort of thing that, this is leading into. Where's the pathway? What have you got to do to get that word removed?
Yes,
in this case, in the Icac case.
Yeah, something needs to happen with this whole thing, and it's a shame we've lost what seems to be a pretty, a pretty good premier and someone who's done their best.
Well, don't worry. She's probably going to run for federal politics a bit later. She's quite popular, so they're putting wreaths of flowers outside her office and everything. So it was
that's amazing. Like, when have you heard of a politician like resigning, because of a corruption allegation, and then people sending them flowers, like inundating their office with flowers,
Well, politics is about smart moves, and this, I think, will turn out to be a smart move. You follow that terrible investigation to its logical conclusion, and it's just you sitting in front of videotape after videotape of them asking you questions and saying, are you sure you're not dodgy like your boyfriend? Whereas this, she's just gotten out of it, well, seemingly for the moment, taken the heat off that. I'm sure she'll have to appear anyway or whatever, but I think public opinion is on her side, particularly because we're opening up next week, so everyone's like, oh my god, we got through it, Gladys. And she's been replaced by, I mean, it's the youngest premier ever, 39 maybe.
Yeah, I heard that. To be honest, he looks a little older.
Well,
it's the hairstyle. He's got this old man hairstyle.
Yeah, but he's conservative. So he's got that. He's always.
But that doesn't mean you have to have an old man hairstyle.
That's true, but he's got clear frames. He wears clear frames, which is a severe look. And you know, I'm just saying this because it can make a difference. He's got 6 kids.
Really?
So if that doesn't age you, I don't know what will.
True. I've got one kid and he's fucking aging me.
If you enjoy what we do here on the New Flesh podcast, there are a number of ways you can contribute to the success of the show. Consider supporting us financially by becoming a Patreon member and donating monthly or yearly. Alternatively, you can donate money through the Buy Me a Coffee platform. If you're strapped for cash at the moment, there are other ways to support the New Flesh. You can give us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts. These really do help others find our show and help spread the word. Or you can just simply tell your friends about us. Back to the show. Well, I think we should get sexy. What do you think?
Oh, I'm up for some sexy.
All right. Okay. So recently, Playboy has done a new digital cover. You're going to learn a lot about Playboy today, I think. So the cover of their digital edition recently featured Bretman Rock, a TikToker, influencer, makeup guru, 23-year-old Filipino-born artist. He's the first openly gay male to appear on the cover. Now, there have been other males to appear, Burt Reynolds, a few others, but this, as they say, is the first openly gay male. Now, the image itself is black and white. Bretman Rock is wearing that signature Playboy bunny outfit on the cover. And it stirred up pretty much all the controversy you would imagine it did. So here's some comments just to give you some context. So he has said, just for Playboy to have a male on the cover is a huge deal for the LGBT community. Oh, geez, the plus and Qs will be very offended at that. For my brown people community, it's surreal, Rock said in a quote shared on Playboy's Twitter. Like it's even fucking happening right now type of vibe. And I'm so pretty. So yeah, everything happens for a reason and it proves that I'm a big ass witch. Weird flex, but okay.
What?
That's what he said.
What?
That's what he said about that. So if you look, Ricky, I'm just saying if you can't handle the smoke. I feel like I need
an interpreter.
No. Look, if you can't handle the smoke, look, if you don't know where it's at, then maybe you should just get out of the kitchen. You know what I'm saying? So he's also said, it says the influencer took to Instagram on Monday during that global shutdown to share some images from the photo shoot. He's also, quote, "The baddest bunny posting to piss off more straight men. If you're pissed because I turn you on, then say that. Jeez," he captioned. So what do you think of this?
Well, that last comment makes me think that this whole thing has been done just to piss off the people who enjoy a Playboy magazine. Right. It's like we're seeing this in cinema too, where, and I think you mentioned this on our last podcast, where movies like Terminator 6 are made not to give the fans enjoyment, but to say, to stick it to them,
Yes.
And this is a similar thing here. Like I just wonder what is this? Who is this for?
Okay. Well, firstly, maybe we should, because we might be tipping our hand a little bit. So what is a charitable reading of this situation, if you had to give one?
I'm not sure.
Okay, well...
Maybe you've got a charitable reading you can...
Oh, well, we can just tease it out a little more. So I feel like, firstly you have to ask, what is Playboy? Do you know what I mean? You start there and say, okay, well, it's a men's lifestyle magazine, okay? Centerfolds... interviews with artists, notable figures, and some cartoons. Sort of like a bawdy New Yorker. It's not Hustler, okay? So Hustler is a pornographic magazine. Playboy is something else entirely, It's sexy and certainly has nudity. And I think at a time when there was no pornography on the internet and whatever, it would have served like a function that we actually can't imagine it for. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So because it seems so, relatively tame and classy, even their full nudes. But there would have been a time when it started in 1960 or whatever, where I think it would have served, it would have been very useful material for you. What can I say? So who is it for? You asked the question, right? Who is it for? Now, this can change, I guess, but it's in the description on Wiki. It says it's a men's lifestyle magazine. So, well, it's for men. It's sort of an aristocratic fantasy. It's like bohemians, hot babes, and free love. It sort of jumped on that free love thing in the 60s a bit. I think that's a symbol of that's sort of its MO in a way. It has jumped on some causes over time. So in 67, Hugh Hefner said about the rabbit symbol, right? That's the figurehead of the whole thing. The rabbit, the bunny in America has a sexual meaning, and I chose it because it's a fresh animal, shy, vivacious, jumping, sexy. First it smells you, then it escapes. Then it comes back, and you feel like caressing it, playing with it. The girl resembles a bunny, joyful, joking. Consider the girl we made popular, the Playmate of the Month. She is never sophisticated, a girl you cannot really have. She is young, healthy, simple girl. She's a young, healthy, simple girl, the girl next door. We're not interested in the mysterious, difficult woman, the femme fatale who wears elegant underwear with lace, and she is sad and somehow mentally filthy. The Playboy girl has no lace, no underwear. She's naked, well washed with soap and water, and she's happy. So
that would get you absolutely crucified if you said that in 2021.
Yeah. Well, I feel like, obviously, he's saying a lot that you can't say out loud. But if I said to you, do you want it's another alternate universe. You're on an island, your wife's nowhere. Do you want to be with like a naked, well-washed, happy, naked girl?
I do.
Okay, yep. Well, you're cancelled. So anyway, a company can change and grow, and attitudes can change and grow.
Yeah, of course.
So look, here's some other things here's some other hits that you might not know about. So it stopped printing during the pandemic and went all digital. Okay, blaming supply lines and whatever. Mm-hmm. In 2017, they famously dropped nudity. Do you remember this?
No.
I remember this. It was big. So they cited the sort of ubiquity or the saturation of porn, and made this big thing and said, well, we're going to sort of make ourselves a bit more Vice-like, and we're dropping nudity, and being not nude is the new nude, and they brought it back a year later. So it was basically like new Coke. They just were like, we blew it. You know what I mean? It's such a strange argument, and really, to me, this taking away of nudity, I think it's really degrading to the art and craft of centerfold photography. And it's not, because the thing is, Playboy nudity for a long time is not just nudity; it's a Playboy shoot. You morons! It's like high profiles, lighting, and it's probably bigger than Ben-Hur, and you've got everyone in the world looking at this one girl like for a month. You know what I mean? The Playmate of the Month or whatever, or the centerfold. And so I think it's really degrading to everyone who's come before, and your brand, to even say that nudity is that you're just a nudie mag or something. It's like, well, no, you're Playboy. What are you doing? Yeah. So they've scrambled for a younger audience, and being California elites, they've also thrown themselves behind a few progressive causes over the years. Which they sort of proudly talk about. They said they're they're loving this LGBTQ stuff right now, loving it. You know what I mean? But then again, so is Raytheon and the CIA. So I you know what I mean? It's not like I can't give you top marks there because you're all in. But then again, every frightened corporation is all in.
That's right.
On this, like then none of them are they're not looking closely at the detail, and if any of it makes sense, they're just saying yeah. It's all good. It's all good. And you go, yeah. And look, and you know what? It's fine. And maybe they've done some good. But here's what I think. So, well, firstly, what do you think about any of that? Does the nudity thing surprise you?
That did surprise me. I didn't know that they stopped nudity, but it's not surprising that just a year later they popped it back in again. Because obviously the market responded and they looked at the numbers and went, well, we've sort of abandoned a fairly big aspect of what we are, so let's bring it back. And I feel like this is the same thing. They're testing the waters. They're seeing if the market grows out of this, and if it does, you'll probably see more of it. If it doesn't, you probably won't see this guy on a Playboy ever again.
I think you've hit on it. So basically, at the end of the day, this is not a charity organization, and as much as you sort of fall for their tricks, right? Because you read their statements and they're in the articles, and because they're outraged at some of the pushback of there's obviously been just tongue baths from the blue check marks on Twitter, loving it. Obviously, people who probably never read Playboy and aren't subscribers and would never bother. They're the people who are jumping all over it and saying this is just the best thing ever. Haven't amplified anyone who actually reads the magazine. So but there's been some pushback, as you can imagine. It's Twitter, for fuck's sake. Of course, people, it's real or imagined, it's on there. And so they're like, oh, that's terrible. But forget what they say in their statements about how, and because they've run through how they've been there. They were there on the ground floor in, free love and LGBT and a few other covers they've done over the years to sort of, to tell everyone how virtuous they are and justify, everything they do. But did you know this? This isn't a charity. This is Playboy Enterprises, PEI, okay? And they make most of their money in licensing. The logo, merchandising, okay? That logo, that's how they license it to other countries, whatever, right? That's how they make their money now, okay? So this logo means something and the merchandising means something. So if you see, but if you want to see what's really going on behind the scenes here, despite what their press releases say, just go to playboy.com and check out their merchandising section, okay?
Right.
Bretman Rock, this latest cover, is nowhere to be seen. Okay. So if you look at their merchandising, it's all the hottest covers and images, sexy, hot women. Okay. All the best stuff on posters, T-shirts, and all the images. You just go, oh wow, that's hot. Like a chick naked but wearing high tops and stuff, and you just go, oh wow, that's awesome. Like all this stuff that is just, totally on point and exactly what you'd expect. And it's the complete opposite of what they've gone with for this cover. Now, it doesn't mean gays aren't invited. It just means that they probably wouldn't be interested in what Playboy is to most people and has been to most people, for a long time. The girls who have the decal sticker on, for instance, on their car, or the guy with the drink holder. I don't know if Bretman Rock is, sort of speaking to them. Now, that doesn't mean that these people are bigots, you know what I mean? They probably are not. It just is saying that this is an enterprise that's not, built for this. Now, as a piece of art, what they've done is fine, right? The latest move is fine. And also, he's an attractive dude. And if I was gay, I'd probably be his power bottom or something. Maybe. I don't know, I've got an open mind. But in a desperate search for a new audience and to find relevancy, they've neglected their actual audience, which is what you said, right? Yeah. So, and that's fine. Look, maybe they want a different one. Maybe they want a better one, a better audience, which is fine. It's capitalism, right? But what happens when that bunny symbol starts to represent something that isn't part of their mainstream business?
Well, that's a big problem.
I don't know, 10% of the world that's gay, and then even smaller percentage of those people that care about Playboy, and then an even smaller percentage of those people who are willing to pay a subscription or buy merchandising Playboy. That's just the numbers of gay people. So there aren't enough gay people in the world to support the Playboy bunny becoming this thing that it's not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what do you want more? Do you want to be popular on Twitter, or do you want to sell millions of units of merchandising to bros and their girls across the globe?
Yeah, I think they want to make bank.
Well, the company's lost its way, and they've forgotten that it's okay to have a chubby.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
but this is the other thing: is it can't accommodate everybody. I mean, you can't have a magazine that appeals to every kind of person on the planet. I mean, that's why we have different kinds of magazines, different kinds of music, different kinds of movies, because people like different stuff, And speaking from a music point of view, if you try and make music that appeals to everybody, you're going to make what's called Muzak. And everybody fucking hates Muzak. It's the most unoffensive, the most bland stuff. It's the stuff you listen to when you're on hold. It's the stuff that plays in elevators. Like, that was made to appeal to everybody.
A completely stripped back version of Girl from Ipanema.
That's right. Yeah,
At best.
it's at best. That's right.
That's even if it's recognizable.
That's it. Yeah. So, I feel like, I don't know, I guess people don't realize that why can't Playboy be Playboy and something else cater to the other thing,
Well, I think you're right. But also, don't you think they've overstated the way in which the world and what they think is their market has changed? Like, I don't doubt that a lot has changed in the last 10, 20 years or whatever. I don't doubt it. But I think it's overstated. Like, the people that work in these companies, they're always in a total silo, right? Like, they're elitists, they're leftist elites. So they're largely untouched by any real leftist policies, but they espouse them, and they're and they all walk around saying the words. And so they seem to just collectively overstate the way that their audience has changed. They're like, yeah, it turns out that I don't know, like, everyone just, what everyone wants? Everyone just wants like a gay guy in a bunny suit on the cover now. Like, that's what everyone wants. And you say, no, it's fine. I want that, like, on the cover of like a magazine that's more appropriate for, like, Vogue or something, or like I just don't think. Well, I don't want to. I have no objection as to where it is. You can put it on Playboy if you like. I mean, what's the difference? You've had Burt Reynolds on the cover, I suppose. But I just feel like this is mission creep of the highest order. Like, they're making a point. Like, if they could have just put the bunny on the cover and with the colors, the progress flag, and said, yeah, we're all about this, so get on or fuck off. And you go, yeah, cool, man, I get that. And that's fine. But at the end of the day, that bunny symbol is tied up, as the merchandising suggests, with hot female sexuality. It is, and it will, and the debonair gentleman sort of, and the dance between him and the girls. Who's in charge? And it's all of this stuff is so obvious. Yeah. And I just am so confused as to why these companies like just totally don't get it.
Yeah, I know. I think they've, as you say, they've definitely overestimated how much culture and society has changed, because it hasn't changed enough to sustain the massive machine that is Playboy. It needs a lot of revenue to be propped up. And you're not going to get enough from this small section that this cover would appeal to. And it's like you said before, all these blue check marks on Twitter that are praising this move have probably never bought a Playboy, never looked at a Playboy, only know about it through, pop culture and TV references and stuff. Like, that's not the audience. They're not all of a sudden going to be buying the magazine.
That's right. So I just feel like, they've totally denigrated themselves as well. Like, you just need to say, people, you're Playboy. Like, do what you do. And don't, and as your year without nudity showed us, you're in the market of something that will never go out of style, even when there's too much of it. Do you know what I mean? Like, there is nudity at every corner, but I don't want to read a Playboy. I don't even want to think about a Playboy without nudity. Like, what's the point?
Did you ever have a Playboy as a kid?
I never had one, I don't think, but I knew people who had them, and or had parts of them, because that was the sad old days,
Yeah. Well, I've got a confession to make. When I was probably about 15, around about there, I went to a newsagent and I bought a newspaper, but inside the newspaper was a Playboy, and I believe it had, I don't have it anymore, I should have kept it, but 1996 Playboy Pet of the Year.
Amazing.
Yes.
Who was it?
Oh, I can't remember. I'll have to look her up. but I remember she was sort of a slim brunette. It's hot, really hot.
Demure, athletic.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. So
Wow.
that's my confession.
Did it make a impression on you?
It did for sure, yeah. The funny thing is it had like a cologne. You know how they used to have these cologne like folded pages where it was like a sample of a particular cologne and you'd smell it. And so I can almost smell what that Playboy smelled like. Even today, like if I smelt that fragrance in like a shop or something, like a perfume store, instantly I'd be like, that's my Playboy of 1996. You know?
That's wonderful. I want to go back in time and put Bretman Rock in there and
Oh yeah,
change your future.
I'd be like, what the fuck is this? I'd be like, hang on a minute.
Excellent stuff. All right, well, thanks for everyone for putting up with my deep dive on Playboy there. I think we probably need the news. What do you think?
Yeah, bring it on.
Sheila, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yep, pretty good.
What have you got for us?
News.
Okay. A pair of drunken idiots who broke their legs after sneaking into a water park and crashing into the barrier of a closed flume tube have said they may sue the park's owners. They both suffered broken shins and shattered feet after pulling their 2 a.m. stunt in a water park. I believe they were naked. So this is an ongoing thing with the Daily Mail. They've had a few articles about these guys. So the actual headline reads, "Now the idiots plan to sue water park for breaking their legs on shut slides. Drunk duo left with horror injuries after riding blocked up flume tubes at 2 a.m. are now threatening legal action."
Right. This is America, isn't it?
No, it's England.
England.
Oh, I'd expect this from America, not from England.
Yeah, no, in Hampshire. This is
Well, they're not going to get any money, surely.
I don't know.
But no, but isn't this the sort of thing that we think is great in movies, like, you know, in old school, like Frank the Tank sort of stuff?
Yeah,
Like,
breaking into
we think it's
a
great.
water park. Yeah,
We're like, oh, that's so good. Oh, like, you know, breaking in, doing nude hijinks,
bit
and
of a
then
sexy time.
Yeah, but there's no chicks. It's just you and your mate.
But in the movie, there'd be a chick.
Yeah, okay.
In my
your
mind,
movie.
there's a chick.
In your mind,
one of them one of them is a chick.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, it's Claire Vickers, 46, and Barry Douglas, 44.
Well, there we go. Okay, the age, that's a problem.
No, the whole thing changes.
Yeah.
So
they're sex pests.
Well, they're just entering that age of being gross swingers, you know, when you're that age. But if they'd left the ages out and they just said the names, you'd go, oh, yeah, just going to go having a bit of sexy time, like, you know. All right, that's got my mind racing. What's next?
It went from being sexy to disgusting.
yeah, disgusting.
Okay. Oh, you're going to love this one. The Lord of the Rings cruise revenge on Harvey Weinstein. Elijah Wood reveals orc mask was styled on disgraced movie mogul's face after he made life difficult for the producer. And then they put a photo of Harvey next to this filthy-looking orc mask, and you can see they have styled it on him. And they've even got one of those sliding panels where you can slide it from Harvey's face across to the orc, or Harvey's face across to the orc, and yeah, it actually looks like him.
All right, I think it was made because someone in the web department or whatever was like, hey, look what I can do. but so let me get it straight though. So that the orc mask was made in revenge for making the producer's life difficult, like, you know, Fran Walsh or whatever.
Yeah, they he was a real Miramax were complete pains in the ass, and I think Harvey was a real total bastard apparently.
No, but So him being ornery on set and being a prick with the film, like, you make an orc mask. I mean, there's not enough orc masks out there to make up for him taking his dick out in front of Rosanna Arquette.
no, but this was way before. Like, okay, so here we go. This is a good little grab. Orcs, fictional human monsters similar to goblins, have deformed, mottled faces, and Elijah revealed one of the orc masks, and I remember this vividly, was designed to look like Harvey Weinstein as a sort of fuck you.
In a way, it sort of immortalizes him, though. Like, I think it does the opposite.
Michael Myers' mask is actually William Shatner.
Yes.
Oh,
The William Shatner mask painted white.
Yeah.
And so this is probably similar. So that's a Harvey Weinstein orc face.
Now you'll be able to go online and get the Harvey Weinstein orc mask.
But don't you think once you're explaining an orc, the conversation's over?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like when you're talking to someone and you go, so you anyway, you know how Harvey Weinstein, like, you know, he's a pig. They made an orc mask of him, and then the person
and
says,
they go, "What's an orc?"
Yeah, what's an orc? And then you go, "Oh fuck," and then you've got to explain.
Yeah, too hard. Too hard.
And the Daily Mail's dived in.
Oh, yeah.
What if they started going to the next bit and said they're born from like sacks and like, you know, out of the earth,
Yeah.
and the Urukai and all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you go,
hey, you sound
hell.
like you know a lot about it, Astro.
I hate those movies. All right, let's not get into it. It's sort of you know, we have a mutual friend who sort of loves them, and he when it comes up, it's not good. So we should probably move on.
Yeah. Steer clear of that one.
All right.
Okay. Actors kissing co-stars 20 years their junior is disgusting, wrong, and typically male, claims playwright Sir David Haar, despite his page 8 thriller boasting that exact age gap.
Right. So the whole point of this is that he's a hypocrite.
I think so. Playwright Sir David Haar has hit out at 20-year age differences between actors. He said gap between Bill Nye and Rachel Weisz in page 8 was disgusting. Right, okay, and I think he wrote that. So I don't know. Look, I mean, you know.
So he wrote it in the novel, but then he's disgusted they've made a movie of it.
I don't know.
Or is he disgusted in general?
Look, you know, guys, I don't read these articles. I just pretty much give you the headlines. I don't know, but
No, you're right. It is our fault. And for wanting to know more. No, I guess it's because, you know, because we don't really care about that difference. Like all men think the same thing. They're like, oh yeah, like, you know, that all men want a younger chick. Isn't that right, Ricky?
Yes. Well, the phrase "old enough to bleed, old enough to breed," I think comes to mind here.
She bleeds, she breeds. But I used to know a complete pig man who put your piggery to shame, and he used to say, "Listen, you show me you show me the hottest shit you could ever find, and I'll show you her boyfriend who's sick of fucking her."
That's right.
So, you know, that's what
Hugh Grant, you know, with
with Elizabeth Hurley. Yeah.
Because you know, no disrespect for Miss Divine Brown.
Yeah, because she's a hot lady as well. But I'm
just saying that, like, you looked at who he was already with, and you're just like, wow, like,
I know.
You know, man can't get enough.
I know.
Yeah. Well, that age thing's not a problem in some countries. Like in France, it's a regular occurrence, you know.
I'm not. Yeah, but are we taking our cues from France? I mean,
They eat horse.
no,
They do.
and we don't want their submarines anymore. So
No,
you know,
no, fuck off. Fuck you. I like my big subs from America. I want an American sub.
Big, thick ones.
All right. Here we go. Now, I don't even know essentially what this means, but you guys might. And I just put it in here because I know that you kind of like talking about this kind of stuff. Okay. So the quote is, "I'm team TERF, and it's all in capital letters, and I don't know what that means. Dave Chappelle sides with J.K. Rowling in transgender spat and slams the trans community for cancelling the Harry Potter author.
How do you cancel Harry Potter?
I'm
You can't.
pretty sure that horse is bolted. I don't think you can do that. I mean, yeah.
You know about this, Ricky, though, like that.
I do, yeah.
Because of JK's comments, which seemed a long time ago now. She sort of birthed. She almost either birthed or made cool this term TERF.
Yep.
And now it just gets bandied about. Everyone's a TERF. Trans exclusionary
Radical feminist.
Radical feminist.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's someone who. So it's sort of drawn a really nasty line in the sand, because if how women have had some rights for like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
you got rights for 2 seconds, and then now we're like, anyway, I'm gonna, like, some people are like, I'm gonna pop on a dress and go into the change room, and I'm sure some people are going to full distance and whatever, but still, to some women, that's what it seems like. It seems like I have just popped on a dress, tucked it between my legs, gone in there and said, anyway, move over, love, and then when you say, excuse me, can you not do that? I go, oh, this is bloody outrageous. You're a TERF, and then like it's become this really nasty word, and all of the lunatics like Judith Butler and all those crazy sort of postmodern feminists have jumped on board, and they're loving it. They're like, because now as Brendan O'Neill says, what it's become is a really nasty slur. It's sort of like back in the day, like calling someone a witch or a hag or whatever, like, it's like, you don't want to be those things, do you? An old hag?
Me?
Yeah. A TERF, a hag, a pig.
I don't even care anymore. People are just so fucking gangster crazy with all of this stuff. Am I allowed to say gangster? I don't know. Yeah. And yeah, I just don't even care anymore. Like I've already had a fight with baby feminists on the internet, and it got me so angry that it made me hate young people.
Well, that can happen.
So, whatever. Sorry, young people.
Well, let's move on quick.
Okay. All right. Now, this is just off the charts. This is crazy. So, barbecue restaurant slammed over sign advertising meow meow Kung Pao burger, claiming it contains honey fried cat. And this is in a place called Perth, Australia.
Oh, no.
Of course.
No. So for anyone listening overseas, Perth is on the far west coast of Australia, and it is literally the most isolated city in the world. They don't give a fuck. They're trying to secede from the rest of the country right now. And that is exactly the sort of thing. It's almost like the perfect opposite of the wokesters in Melbourne, or wherever, Like, it's like they would have a burger that says it's got honey fried cat or whatever.
It's quite refreshing sometimes to hear these stories, because in Melbourne, you've got the cafe where men have to pay a 12% tax on everything they buy because of apparently the gender pay gap. But in Perth, you've got a burger joint who's serving faux cat.
One of my local cafes in Richmond was just, if you just thought you could go in and get a coffee, you were mistaken. You had to put up with their endless political messaging in the window and whatever.
Yeah, did they have that one say that the sticker on the window saying "No Herald Sun"? I've seen that around.
They had all sorts, like it was all gender and whatever related, and then they were on the ground floor with COVID-19 as well. Like, they were saying mad shit. So I can only imagine right now the vaccination stuff they'd have on the window. And you feel like just saying, can you guys just get back to making coffee?
Yeah.
And, can you guys shut up? Like, just shut up. I don't care what you think.
We're all just a bit woke tired at the moment. I think everyone's a bit woke sleepy, I think even a lot of wokesters are getting a bit, because they've realised you're never going to be woke enough. It won't matter. It just won't matter. You can't be woke enough.
It's a really sad day when I'm railing against some wokester and then they go, you ever just wonder what it's all about? And then I go, oh, come on. I go, that's all right. And I go, come on, like, call me a turf or like, I don't know. Come on, you're all right. You're okay. Call me a colonial pig. Do something.
Well, I think one of those baby feminists said, something about internalized misogyny. I was like, are you kidding me? I'm someone who had to deal with, men when I was 18 putting their dicks on my shoulder in the office going, hey, you've got a bone call, Sheila. I mean, come on. Don't talk to me
Did you
about
take the call?
Just went, oh, yeah, good one, Gary. Oh, anyway, you've got a call on line 1, whatever.
It's terrible.
Come on.
It's a sexual crime.
It is a sexual crime. But you know what? At the end of the day, you got to look at yourself and go, am I harmed from that? No, I'm not. I just said fuck off and got on with my life. Anyway, next up, we've got high-profile real estate agent is sacked and seeks legal advice after posting a racist comment about gym equipment on Facebook. But was his question fair enough? Now, what he said on Facebook is that he's a self-confessed gym junkie. He wants some new gym equipment, and on it he said, I'm trying to avoid Chinese products if I can. And that has, sent people off the edge, and he's been stood down.
Come on. Everyone knows to get good quality equipment, you can't look to China,
But also, I mean, ever since China sort of started bullying Australia and basically, threatening us on a daily basis, a lot of Australians on the ground level have said, well, we're going to actively try and buy Australian if we can. There was a big, buy Australian campaign. You're buying jobs for your country folk, and I went as far as to look into the comments section, and there is not one person who is not outraged by this man being stood down. People are furious about it.
But saying something that is uncontroversial about China's trade practices and how we've got to detach in some ways from relying on the Chinese market, and also making a comment about how cheap some of their crap is, and how by proxy how damaging that is to the slave labor that gets used to make it. I don't know, like, why is that a problem? It seems like if it was Russia or something, you would be no one would care, right? As I've said, you can say in Hollywood, you can say whatever you want about Russia, about anyone in Russia. You can make whatever derogatory comments you want, and no one will say anything. And you don't even have to make the distinction about like the government and the people or whatever. You could just go straight for it and say whatever you like. And no one has a bigger glass jaw than China, the CCP, about this stuff. You know what I mean? Like they denigrate our soldiers from official Twitter accounts. They say at the maddest shit, and then cry, and then we say, hey, come on, that's no good. And then they go, we're
gonna try and avoid your product.
And they go, you're being a bit racist. And you go, well, you're being a bit authoritarian, and you're an actual dictatorship.
Well, they're inches away from invading Taiwan.
Yeah. So this is very, on a serious note, this is very, very confusing. And the company is jealous, Craig, the real estate agents that have stood this gentleman down.
You know what it is? They're somehow wrapped up with Chinese real estate and businessmen and stuff. It has to be that.
Well, it's very some people have suggested that and said, they don't want to upset any investors. And it's like, well, okay, I thought we were trying to move away from that. I mean, this is this is a country that is being very threatening to Australia. And all this gentleman has said is he would like to avoid their products. This is, I think, quite scary that the Chinese hold over Australia is this tight, even this far into our sort of diplomatic issues that we're having. So anyway, it's a really it's an upsetting story, that one, and that's in Melbourne, by the way.
Oh, well, I think we should amplify that, and talk about it more, because it's in moving forward, because everyone sleepwalking through the last 20, 30 years, thinking, as I did when I was a young person, that China was going to head towards democratic rule, or even something mildly resembling it. That was a terrible time, and think about all the soft rhetoric that we had for so long. And they were just sitting, the CCP, that is, when I say they, were sitting back, laughing their asses off, just and building bases, and but and because we're so lazy and none of us speak the language, they were able just to get up at conferences and that and just speak plainly about what they're going to do and how they're doing it. And then meanwhile, you've got, the last thing I'll say about it is, you've got people like the Premier of Victoria in bed with the CCP.
Doing
much.
Secret deals. To this day, Dan Andrews refuses to let anyone know the details of that deal, the Belton Road deal, which I find frightening.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrifying. I mean, people are down on him about his lockdown laws and stuff like that. They shouldn't be worried about that. They should be worried about the fact that he did a secret deal and did not even tell the federal government. Anyway, sorry, overseas.
Moving on. No, that was
people.
good. That was good. Loved it. Moving
Sheila,
on.
I thought this was the lighter news we were supposed to be getting.
Sorry, guys. I didn't get enough sleep last night. All right, lastly, now this is just weird. I mean, I know Iran has its, so
much geopolitics today.
I know. But it's so strange. Women are banned from eating pizza or wearing leather gloves, and men must not pour tea for females under bizarre new Iranian TV censorship rules.
Yeah, that all sounds like pretty good. Pretty good
An
stuff.
Iranian lady is not allowed to be seen on television eating a pizza.
Is that because it's too much like eating a dick or something, or
my goodness,
it looks like she's eating a pussy or something?
No. What it is it's clearly just, well, you're sort of on the right track. It's just a suggestive and messy meal, and so Iran's got a problem with anything that's a little bit sexy. It's so strange, and not wearing leather gloves. I don't know. Yeah.
Is cotton okay, or
I
wool?
don't understand. It's just it's a very confusing new rule. I'm very, perturbed by this one. I don't understand it. What's a leather glove going to do? I mean, I'm anti-leather because I'm about animals, but I don't really understand what is a leather glove sort of like a B&D thing? Is that a thing?
I think this is just smoke and mirror stuff. It's stopping us from talking about the real issue, is that that women in Iran can't vote.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Or or let their hair flow free if they if they don't want to wear hijab, they have to. They get arrested if they don't.
Isn't it so funny? All the progressives in America. I mean, it's sort of different in Australia because we're very lazy and we don't care about anything. But those are progressives that you read about in, like AOC and all the other lunatics. They're just. It's like they would never ever talk about this stuff. They would never acknowledge any of that. They act like that. America is the real problem. You know what I mean? They look around, like AOC looks around at the Met Gala in her amazing dress, which is fabulous, and just goes, "Oh, geez, what a trash heap this is." This is a real problem. There's a real problem here, And then if someone says, Miss Cortez, what do you think about how Iranian women can't wear gloves and eat pizza and vote? And she'd just be like, get your mask back on and pick up the train of my dress.
Yeah.
You surf. Shit.
Well, that's all I've got for you guys. I'm
that
sorry.
Was good. You got me fired up.
Really? I think maybe we want to track that guy down. Actually, the
gym guy,
real estate.
Yeah.
He's not a gym guy. He's a respected real estate agent.
Oh no, but said gym junkie.
Oh yeah, he's a self.
Hang on, is there such a thing as a respectable real estate agent?
Oh, no.
Okay, maybe scrub that from that part, and then he might come on our show.
Leave all the racialist stuff, and scrub the real estate bit. That was beyond the pale.
I don't think we said anything racial. I think
that's the problem. That's what they'll say. They'll say you don't even know.
Didn't you say gangster?
I said gangster.
That's Ebonics. So.
You're one step away from dropping the N-word.
What? No, am I not allowed to say gangster?
No, you are.
Because I want to formally apologise if I'm not. Because
if the rule was none of us were allowed to use Ebonics, I tell you what, we'd be in a lot of trouble because it is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. My nephew said it one the other day. He didn't even realize it. He said I was complaining about something. I was complaining about how I told him that his mother, my sister, I said, "Oh, your mum got that big trampoline when she was young, and I got nothing." And then he said, just pause, and this is a young kid, he's about 6 or something or whatever, and he just goes, "Oh, you sound salty." And I was like, yeah, well, I am salty, but the salty is Ebonics, so it's everywhere. Yeah. All right,
but it's okay because American children are now saying Dunny because of Bluey, so that's good.
Oh,
something's going the other way. That's good.
We win.
Yeah,
I want to hear American kids going Dunny.
I want to hear them say Struth. I want to hear them say Dunny. Fair dinkum.
AJ really just wants them to say the C word more.
Yeah, I think that too.
Yeah, well, no, that's.
Well, I don't think Bluey's going to be saying the C word anytime soon.
No. All right.
Okay. Thanks guys.
Bye. All right, now, Astro, I believe you had another juicy topic to discuss with us today involving a little bit of self-cancellation.
Yes. Okay, so I'll bring you up to speed quickly. As I say, leftist girls gone wild, hot left on left action. Here it is. Jessica Rowe is this is from her website. Australian journalist, TV presenter, author Jessica Rowe jumps past the small talk and goes big and deep with some of our most beloved personalities. From love to loss, everything in between, Jess will show you a different side of her guests, which might seem to have it all together in these raw and honest conversations about the things that matter. That's from the Jess Rowe Big Talk Show podcast, which has launched not too long ago. I don't know, maybe 10 eps or so. Guests, Carl Stepanovic, Sophie Monk, Julia Morris, Stephanie Rice. I think you're getting the picture of who.
Low-hanging fruit there. Bloody hell.
Do you know anyone who loves those types of people? Like
Carl Stepanovic. He's oh, my God. And Julia Morris, she hasn't been a relevant comedian for, 25, 30 years now?
These people have never stopped working, by the way. You're just not part of this. You don't have morning television on. So
I know.
Anyway, so Jessica's had a guest recently. She had Pauline Hanson, Senator Pauline Hanson.
Yep.
And I think Pauline sticks a little bit out on this lineup.
I think it's a move in the right direction, if I can be quite frank there.
Yes. Okay. Well, I think I agree. So what happened next is there was a Twitter pylon. So Australian of the Year Grace Tame criticised Rowe for platforming the One Nation leader. She said on Twitter, this is how discrimination and hate is subtly enabled and normalized. Tame wrote on Twitter, Pauline doesn't need help to be heard, but those whose oppression she's both driven and reinforced do. Next up, we have Nakia Louis. She is a playwright and comedian and whatever. She's everywhere. She tweeted, Jess, I have a lot of respect for you, but this is not it. You're platforming a racist. You're celebrating someone who's made a career /$ from degrading, disrespecting, and dehumanizing many people. If you're not interrogating them, you're validating those racist opinions. After this, there was backlash everywhere. So Jessica Rowe has pulled the episode, and there was a comment she's posted on her Insta here. There's been much reaction and comment to my podcast conversation with Pauline Hanson today. Pauline's political views are the opposite of mine. I've never agreed with her on these issues, never will. Kindness is at the heart of who I am. Among the comments today, I heard from some who I admire enormously, including Nakia Louis and Grace Tame, and I want to thank them especially for their candor. This will be the start of a bigger conversation for me and with those who this topic directly affects. I have asked listener blah 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 to take down the episode ASAP. Thank you, everyone. Jess, what do you think, Ricky? What do you make of it?
Well, let's just reel it back for a second. Let's explain to some people who may not know who Pauline Hanson is. So for our international listeners, they're probably going, who the hell is this Pauline Hanson chick? You know. So Pauline Hanson, she got elected to the Senate like in the 1990s. She was a former Queensland fish and chip shop owner who sort of ran on a platform of
plain speaking.
That's how she cut through, really, because she wasn't a politician. She was the average, the average Joe who, was a businesswoman who, worked a fairly, grassroots sort of a business, fish and chip shop. And she famously, I think, said in her first speech to Senate that Australia is being swamped by Asians. So she was very concerned about Asian immigration at that point. And so she had a bit of a crash and burn career in politics in the 90s. And then she
went
came
to the big
back.
house.
She did, yeah. She went to jail. What was that for?
I can't remember. It was,
But she got acquitted or something, like that got cleared up.
Something like that.
I can't remember. But then she's come back now in the late noughts. She's back in Senate, and her first speech back on her second time round, she famously mirrored the speech of the 90s, saying we are being swamped by Islamic people coming into Australia.
And she famously wore a burqa in the Senate.
She did. She made it all the way through security into the Senate wearing a burqa, and she did this grand statement where she, revealed herself to be Pauline Hanson. And her point there was that it's a security risk to have someone walking through Parliament who you can't see, and she was able to get all the way through Parliament in that garb, which, to be honest, I think that's kind of a pretty valid point, that anyone could be under. If you're not going to check who that is, we do have to have some pretty stringent security measures for our, highest office in the land. I'm sure there's similar security measures in place in all parliaments around the world,
But you just maybe put in context, why are these two, what are these two chicks hot about, Pauline being on this podcast? Like, the person you're describing, it sounds like someone you could probably sit down and talk about different policies with, and strenuously disagree with some of it, or call her out on this or that. But these chicks are saying, they've used words like, she's a racist.
Yeah. Well, that's debatable whether she is a racist. I think. Do you think? Like,
well, it's language that I wouldn't use lightly, and maybe Nakia isn't using it lightly either. But as Nakia has,
I think she has problematic views about immigration. Right. I'll say that. Like, but on the other hand, I have seen Pauline Hanson talk about the family court system in Australia, which is in pretty bad situation like this, huge waiting times on people getting into the family courts, and men are usually, disproportionately represented, and a lot more of the rights in terms of custody goes to the women and stuff like that. So that's a valid issue that a politician should be able to talk about for sure. But also, Pauline Hanson is a person who is often, hangs herself if you give her enough rope, So a platform like this, you could expose some of her views by actually engaging with her,
I mean, I agree. I think that we could have benefited from, hearing in the podcast form what Pauline has to say. I've told you about my moment. It was a couple of years ago now. It was on the fledgling days of the Brendan O'Neill podcast, which I was a Patreon member to until he cancelled his Patreon. One of the first episodes I listened to was Tony Abbott, the much reviled figure across Australia and some parts of the UK. And I was shocked. I come from a left background, and, I still consider myself centre-left. And hearing this man who had been totally, pilloried in the press and made to look foolish at every turn and villainized, hearing him speak, for an hour or so on a range of different issues and his beliefs, I was struck by how intelligent he came across and how non-adversarial the podcast form was. And I was quite moved. I was like, oh my God, like this is totally the opposite of what Lee Sales does on her show on the 7:30 Report. It's the opposite of what they do on, you're not trying to get a soundbite. It was the opposite of soundbite culture, and it was really to give you'd have to take everything you heard and his reasoning and everything, and then you're going to have to marry it with everything else and make your own opinion. You know what I mean? Whereas what they're calling for here by having Pauline erased from this podcast is they're saying that platforming someone is, the problem, and we don't have to hear from her. Do you know what I mean? As Nakia says, if you're not interrogating them, you're validating those racist opinions.
I think this does the opposite thing by deplatforming them. You're not going to change Pauline Hanson's views on anything by doing that. But the way you could change someone's opinion on issues is having a reasonable discussion or debate to tease things out and come together as good faith conversationalists. Then you're more likely to change someone's viewpoint that way than just cancelling them, because Pauline's going to dig her heels in even harder, And this Twitter mob, they say, oh, well, we're not deplatforming her because, she's got a voice in the Senate. Like, she's been on, celebrity TV shows. Like, she gets interviewed on TV all the time. But that's a different deal. Like this is a long form podcast that will afford both Pauline Hanson and Jessica Rowe the opportunity to really dig into some issues and to really shed some light on things.
And just to be clear, I suppose this is part of the strangeness of it, is that her podcast is really light and bright in that the main thing she talked about Pauline, to Pauline about was her kids, about what she likes to drink. It was really human and basic stuff. She didn't cover any politics.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So I think she was criticised on that ground.
Do you think if she did talk politics that they would have wanted her cancelled?
Yeah, probably, because it would depend on how Jessica Rowe asked the questions. I mean, Nakia Louis has made it clear. She has said, if you're not interrogating them, so it's not even questioning them, you're interrogating them. You know what I mean? That means you interrogate people you suspect of being a criminal or a terrorist. Do you know what I mean? That's when you've got a pretty good idea of what you think they've done when you're interrogating someone. You're not trying to understand them. She doesn't say if you're trying to understand them, if you're trying to converse with them, if you're trying to probe their issues. She says interrogating. So for Nakia Louis, that's a zero-sum game, and actually I should just point out as well this is my biggest problem with what Nakia has said. She has said, and this is a rhetorical trick used by modern leftist elites, and this is exactly what did Jessica in here. She said, if you're not interrogating them, so that's the clause, right? The first clause, then you're validating those racist opinions. So the subtitle is, if you're not doing what I say or what I think, then you are a racist, Jessica. She's not saying you. When you say you're validating those racist opinions, you're not saying what those words say. What you're saying is you're a racist. And so what Jessica did is she was understandably terrified of being called a racist, which is what she was called in modern leftist parlance. And so she took the episode down. An opportunity to understand this influential person was lost. And I don't agree with Pauline Hanson a lot of the time, but I know people who do, and I want to change their minds. And yelling and sneering at them, as you say, is not working.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. Like, enough people are behind her and her views to vote her in to the Senate, not once, but twice. So you've got to look at that fact and go, well, obviously there are different views out there, and we need to engage with them to understand them and to come to some sort of agreement here, because or some sort of middle ground, because you can't just keep trying to hide people away and ban people away. Like, that's just a bubbling cauldron just waiting to overflow,
And to a certain degree, I mean, look, it's a longer podcast, but if either of the two parties adequately addressed some of the stuff she addresses, in a reasoned and robust manner, then it would take away a lot of their power. Do you know what I mean? In the same way that when the Greens put something good forward and that one of the parties takes it, then you've served your purpose. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a concern. There are concerns that Pauline has, whether it's about the courts or about the elements of immigration, or maybe it's just immigration messaging, whatever. That if you adequately, communicate to the people I know who agree with Pauline Hanson, they're all in the West, by the way. Those people I just so you know.
Or far north Queensland.
Yeah. So anyway, it's then you take away her sort of her most potent weapons. You know what I mean? But she's the only one speaking to those people, unfortunately.
Well, who are these people that have got? Because it seems to be two people that have got Jessica to, sycophantically apologise. And
yeah, but they were mentioned, in her apology.
That's right.
So what we've got is Grace Tame, 26, Australian of the Year, just this year. So she's got an interesting story, terrible story about her. She's like incest, I think, assault survivor and whatnot, big advocate. Now, unfortunately, when you're Australian of the Year, I think you sort of tend to, what do we say? Maybe roam outside your portfolio, but you start to think maybe I'm Prime Minister and I've got to talk about it. You know what I mean? Like, I see this a lot. Like, she's got all these portfolios that are really full. I don't see what we're talking about Pauline Hanson. Maybe there's some intersections there with her stuff about abuse victims or something. I don't know, but I think maybe Grace is maybe getting ahead of herself here. What followed after is what you can imagine on Twitter. Okay, well, wait. So Nakia got the same treatment. So Nakia, I've talked about who she is, a young artist, but they both got blowback of their own on Twitter. Okay, and now Nakia's Twitter thread is now just days of her, moaning and, talking about how she's crying in her room and, she's turning her messages off. And just because she said 2 tweets, she's going deep into the past, talking about shit that happened in high school. And, she's hopping on to talking about colonialism and internalized racism. It's a word salad of stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, she's just really wrestling. Grace Tame got, bad treatment as well. She said, that she was baffled by the response. I thought I raised, what did she say? In a live Instagram interview with blah, 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 Miss Tame revealed she had copped a lot of hatred for criticising Miss Rowe's choice to interview Hanson. I raised this issue that it's quite dangerous in that it normalises hatred and normalises bigotry. I thought I made my point in a really measured way. It wasn't designed to incite hatred against anyone, not even Pauline Hanson. That's not who I am. But naturally, it was misinterpreted by a lot of people, and I've copped a lot of hatred. I've been called the C word more times than I can count since then by people sending me private messages and commenting publicly on my social media. I was just baffled, and I thought I was being really quite reasonable. Well, I would, and Nakia's, saying all sorts of mad shit. But I mean, is Twitter really the best forum for all this stuff? Like, it is a
Absolutely not. For this sort of long form, complicated and messy discussion, it's horrible.
Well, there's a couple of things here. Look, don't you think that maybe these chicks should have gone? Maybe they've spoken about it on their own podcast or whatever. But don't you think they could have talked at length, maybe even to Jessica Rowe in the next episode, and really gone deep on it, and in a non-adversarial way, and a non sneering Twitter smartass way. They've hidden behind their tweets, and now they've both revealed that, look, some of the abuse is absolutely appalling, and it speaks for itself. But frankly, they both have glass jaws. Do you know what I mean? Like they didn't want the smoke. So
also, it's very easy to, as you say, hide behind tweets and these small, punchy little sentences that you have to throw out there on Twitter. Because I can't speak for this Australian of the Year, but for Nakia, I know, because I've seen her in interviews and stuff, that she's an absolute intellectual lightweight, and so she would never go on a long form podcast platform like that to discuss this issue, because she herself would be shown up to be the lightweight that she is. She's
a low altitude flyer, and she gets a lot of airplay I think they could have both privately reached out to Jessica as well. I mean, you don't have to leave everything. You don't have to do everything publicly. You don't have to shame Jessica publicly. You don't have to do all that. You could have. You've got enough clout. You could probably privately have gotten a big reaction from her and gone about it that way. But no, you wanted to make a splash, and you made it. And now what's happening is happening. And I just feel like this is such an own goal. And if I had to say what really should have happened, what Jessica Rowe needs to realize is that she is a senior journalist in this instance, with a lot of experience. And I feel like she ceded a lot of ground to these young women needlessly. She could have said, thanks, young blood. I've got this. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm a journalist. If I can't, I don't need to explain myself to girls in their 20s about this big bad complex world we live in. And she also should have realized that the moment that the heat came, the moment that Nakia Louis has called her a racist. I'm going to say it. She's called Jessica Rowe a racist, implied it. Well, she firstly labelled Pauline Hanson a racist, which I don't know if you can prove that in court yet. That might be libelous, maybe. And then she's basically called Jessica a racist. So Jessica should have realised that what happens after that, after the moment you're labelled any of these things, a phobe or a racist, whatever, it's already over. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's already over, because your options are very limited. You probably should stand your ground and explain yourself and say, look, that wasn't my intention. I'm sorry you feel that way. The podcast stays up, and maybe we'll do a follow-up to deepen the conversation. But taking it down, trying to get in the DeLorean and go back in time, never works.
No,
it's over. It's over. And in fact, if the situation was slightly different, you're almost certainly going to lose your job because of what you did. Do you know what I mean? She's got enough cachet, and the situation is what it is, enough that she's managed to hang on. But there's a lot of other people out there that once you transgress in a minor way, and the first bit of criticism, the first chink in the armor appears, it's already over, and it's just a matter of time. You will lose your job. You will be labelled. It's already over. So all you've got after that, as they say in the Crucible, is your name, is your reputation. You know, you've got your integrity.
Your integrity.
That's all you've got.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I agree 100%. I think Jessica Rowe, should have not been nasty about it, but been just, firm and said, this is completely acceptable to interview someone who is in the Senate, and you may not agree with her, but, it is what it is. And let's deepen the conversation here.
Do you know why I'm hot about it? Because it's partly the reason we started our podcast.
That's right, yeah.
It's a groundbreaking platform and format. It's incredible. Like, in what other time in history have you had the opportunity to discuss things at this length with no limit?
That's
you know
right,
what I mean?
yeah.
And it's essentially free, you know what I mean? Like, to a lot of people. And you've got so much opportunity. That's why Joe Rogan pisses people off, I guess, is because he sits down for these 3-hour discussions, and it's really hard when you've got 3 hours of hearing someone to box them up in that old school hard copy CNN Today, Tonight, whatever box, and to say, oh, this is the one thing they said that means that they're a racist.
Yeah.
So it's such an incredible platform. I think it's so good. And I think these two chicks missed an opportunity. I'd love to hear them. The problem is I feel like I'm getting little tidbits about these two young fools because, they're getting filtered through the mainstream media. Maybe, we need to hear a long form discussion where they all talk it out and then come to an agreement, because, Grace Tame and Nakia Louis are fairly certain they have nothing to learn. And that's not true. That's not why I am baffled by how much I need to learn. These two have decided, they're like, oh, well, that's it. Close the door on that. Like, I know what I know at 26.
Yeah, that's right. Well, this is an amazing time where, never before in history would people have access to all these sorts of views and discussions. And the fact that people are sitting down or, obviously having their headphones on or whatever and going about their business, but listening to 3 hours of a long form conversation on specific cultural or scientific topics is amazing. And what worries me, this Jessica Rowe thing, I think the leftist mob, they're coming for us. They're coming for podcasts, and it won't be long before podcasts are starting to be cancelled.
Oh, absolutely.
And people really need to stand up, because if you love your podcasts, if you love learning, if you love listening to different views and discussions, then you should be pushing back when the mob comes.
Absolutely. I think this needs to be defended, and that's why it's gotten me hot.
Yeah, well, fascinating. Well, watch this space. I'm sure we'll have other topics come our way in a similar vein to this.
Oh, we haven't talked about Wonderland.
We'll talk about it now. So, Wonderland is a track that we've released. It came out yesterday. So it's on Spotify. It's a cover song of a John Mayer track, Your Body is a Wonderland. It's been given a retro wave veneer, I guess, or treatment, you could say. And it's accompanied by a fantastic video clip that you, John, have created. Why don't you explain what that's all about?
Well, it is a love letter to all the things we love, from yesteryear, and I really must say, watching it and listening to the music, it's one of my favorite things. I just love this track, and I really want to hear what people have to say about it. Unfortunately, it's only available at the moment on Vimeo, because I'm treading carefully with YouTube, because it's saucy. Okay, so if that's hooked you, I hope it has. You can just go to Vimeo and search for Your Body is a Wonderland by Dream Drive, and we're definitely there. It's behind the 18 plus wall, but that shouldn't be a problem for you. We're just treading carefully because YouTube are desperate to cancel us. Okay, now the moment I'm going to have to just make a few little trims and upload it to YouTube, see how we go. But I'm almost certain we'll get a strike. In fact, I'll lay it down here. I bet you we have a strike by next week.
Yeah.
But forget that. Just find it on Spotify, find it on Vimeo, and enjoy.
Yes. Yeah, love to know what you think about it. Well, I believe next week we start our spooktacular on Side Boob Cinema.
Correct. I'm so pumped.
And I'm excited because I have never seen a Friday the 13th film.
Well, we're going to sort this right out from the start.
Yeah.
Okay, we can get that done. And there was also talk of moving forward inside Boob, perhaps doing some more Joe Esterhouse films, since we all had such a good time with Jade.
Yeah, and I think the listeners have had a good time too. It's been popular.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's getting a healthy amount of downloads. So
excellent. All right, well, we said what we said.
Till next time, long live the new flesh.
On with the new flesh.
What the fuck is this? What?